Hi everyone, this is Melody Chadamoyo from the Heart Passion Institute. So I am welcoming you to this masterclass where we're going to talk about awakening to a new world of a loving and fulfilling relationship. And most people believe that once a relationship is in trouble or it's not happy anymore, the best solution is to leave or to divorce or to part ways and find something or someone else. So I am not talking about people who are being emotionally abused or physically abused or who are feeling unsafe or, with narcissism or living with a narcissist person or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking to people who have met people who are decent human beings, who are nice people, who are trying their best to provide, to love you, to connect with you. And yet, you find yourself in a situation where things are not working out, because that's where I was. And I just found that it was really difficult for me. I felt so betrayed and lonely and unhappy and frustrated. And I felt, unloved. I felt unappreciated, unsupported, and overwhelmed. And all this was happening while I was away from home. We had migrated to Ireland at that time, and I'm still living in Ireland, by the way. We had migrated to Ireland, and it was just the two of us. We had no friends at the time. As time came on, we made friends, but at this time, we had not friends. And he was supposed to be my best friend, he was supposed to be my everything. And he was failing big time. And he was also failing in being the perfect person I thought he was meant to be, because, oh, and husband's supposed to be perfect. I'm laughing now because now I have matured and grown and realized that actually there's so many things men are and our spouses are. Perfect is not one of them. And I started thinking that maybe I married the wrong man. Maybe he wasn't the right person for me, or the wrong match or something. I I just I told him how to change. I told him how you could be the best husband for me. I laid it down, I had the plan, and guess what? He didn't follow it. He was not going to follow my plan of how to be my husband, because he was just going to be himself, and I could love him or not. And again, it made me feel really unsupported and really unloved and really overwhelmed, because I did not see myself doing everything on my own. And to make matters worse, we had a baby, and we had struggled to get pregnant. Actually, I had had at this point 4 miscarriages, and this was our fifth one. And it finally succeeded. You would think it would have brought joy and happiness and connection with us. It didn't. Instead, we never felt so alienated. We never felt so separate from each other. We were just two people, two ships flying by, passing each other at night, never talking, never connecting, never saying anything that would help. And and that's the reason why I want to talk to you today, because I feel like most of us, that's where we are. Most of us get to that point, and we get stuck, and we start blaming the other person. We start blaming that it's all his fault. That's what I did with my husband. It was all his fault. If only he could change, if only he could be better, then I would feel better. Then our relationship would feel better. Then I wouldn't need to feel this way. Boy, was I wrong. Totally, completely wrong. Because that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. And I went into research mode, because after I discovered that he was not going to be the man I wanted him to be, or I expected him to be, I went into research, discovered that I am responsible for my own happiness, not my husband. And I did that because instead of leaving him like I wanted, my mom advised me to stay. And, because I was doing my master's, I had a baby, I had a full time job. It just wasn't working, going to work for me. Something had to give, right? And so I, instead of, saying, I really didn't want the idea of coming home and being sad all the time. So I wanted help to find how I can tolerate him a bit more. And part of that is I decided to stop treating him like a baby. And and it's so funny because in society people say men are babies. They're not. They're grown human beings. And when I stopped treating him like a baby, he started stepping up like a man. And like, really? Why didn't anybody tell me this? Anyway, going back to my finding that I was responsible for my own happiness, the first thing I did was I joined the gym. I started going to the gym. I started going out. Now I had friends from work and other places that I had met, and I now started going to meet my friends and be with my friends and enjoy myself. I also, started doing fun things like reading, taking time to read, which meant I had to trust that my husband's way of doing dishes, my husband's way of minding our baby, my husband's way of cleaning the house was good enough, was perfect enough. It did not need me to come and inspect and pass judgment. I could just say it's done, tick it off, and be okay with it. Because babying him wasn't helping. Even his mother never babied him the way I did. Like he would come to me and say, Melody, where are my socks? And I would be able to tell him where his socks were without even needing to go and get them. Which, like, who does that? You know, I wanted so badly to find out what other people's relationships worked or didn't work. What was that, an accident of fate, or did they know something I didn't know? And I didn't want to do it by accident anymore. I wanted to do it consciously. And that's very, very big. Like if anything, I know sometimes we just instinctively react. When you start doing things consciously, things that magic starts to happen because you are kinder, you are nicer, you're more considerate because you're not reacting from past trauma or past whatever that you learned from your parents. You are just, handling the situation. And apologies for looking aside. I'm looking at my notes to see if I'm on track with what I'm supposed to be talking about. And I discovered in my research, in my reflection and everything, that I had stopped taking care of me. I looked after my baby, I shopped for my baby, I looked after my husband, I shopped for my husband. Like when I went into shops, I didn't even go to the women's department store. I don't know where I got that from. I went to the children's side and to the men's side. And then I would shop for them and I would go home. So at that time, my husband had more clothes than me. And and I thought I was being a loving wife. I thought a loving wife did that. And I only discovered that actually that's not true at all. It's not true and it doesn't help because I woke up and started to show myself love, to show myself love the way I want to love me, which meant, sometimes I bought treats for myself. Sometimes I bought clothes for myself. Sometimes I shopped for my family. And sometimes my husband shopped for himself because he wasn't a child. He's a grown man, right? And because I started doing that and making time for hobbies and making time to enjoy myself with my friends, my life transformed so much, asking for what I needed and allowing myself to get it. Because sometimes we ask for what we need, but then we are not open to get it because we get overly critical and we want it to come in a package that we put in, not the package that is being presented to us. We want it a certain way so that we can accept it. And I just decided that that's not how I wanted things to be. From now on, I was going to love myself. I was going to be myself. I was going to accept myself. And I was going to allow my husband to spend time with our baby and, take time to go dancing with my friends. And I started to feel more joyful and more loving and more compassionate. I also started to appreciate my husband more. And I don't know how this, or how I didn't know at the time how this the whole thing was working, but gratitude is an amazing thing. And you can only be grateful if you allow those people around you to be there for you. That's the only way for you to open a channel of gratitude, to allow things to come in. Even when you look at the sunset or the sunrise, when you allow the joy of that beautiful, almost reverent experience is something, it's a gift that you give yourself. You allow yourself to get and appreciate. And when I started to do that, when I started to really get into it and enjoying myself, I fell in love with my husband and he fell in love with me. And we just started to enjoy being together. We started seeing that life could be better for us, that our relationship could be more a work, could be more of a partnership, could be more of a joy for us. And then things got really interesting because now we wanted to know how to maintain that. Because once we captured it, once we got the joy, we said, oh, yeah, it's possible to get joy again. So now what? What happens? What do we do with each other? We started to notice that, sometimes being humorous and being funny is good. Because when I was frustrated, if he did something funny, I thought he was doing it to offend me. I thought he was doing it to make me feel frustrated. I thought he was doing it just to make me, I don't know. It was quite a it was quite a sad situation because all he would be doing would be trying to make me laugh. Because he was desperate to see me laughing. He was desperate to see me happy. Because when I was happy, he was happy. And the other thing I wanted to do was to really, go to learn about men. Because I never really realized that men and women are different, that we see the world differently, that men are not women with hairy legs. No, I never really thought about it until that time. That the way men see the world is so different, is so, so different from the way women see the world. So, looking at men and how men look at the world and how men understand the world was something, it was like opening a Pandora box because I just thought, okay, I want to know what men think and all that. And then it became like, whoa, I didn't realize they were so deep and they were so caring and they were so, mature. And it started with when I had my fourth pregnancy. Our baby um, was premature and she didn't survive and she died. But she lived for 7 days. And in those 7 days, my husband was there with me full time for 3 days. Then he went back to work. And so I would go there and I would be with baby and then come home. And he would come home after work and come to the hospital and visit with the baby for a little bit and then go home. And we would go home together. But I was so scandalized. I was frustrated. Like, how could you just walk away? What kind of person does that? Who would go to work? Like, work is not important. Why do you care so much about your job? You know, our baby is struggling and you are at work? Really? Like, do you not care for me at all? Do you not even know me at all? I went through all that. And then one day, after we had the, cremation and stuff, and we were just the two of us, our mothers had left, and we were crying together. I looked at him and I said, "But why did you leave? Why did you go back to work?" And he said to me, "You know, I wanted, I found it." No, what did he say? He said, "I found that looking at you so desolate and so desperate and so unhappy, and I couldn't help you, and I couldn't help our baby either. I found that it was just killing me. So I thought the best thing I can do is to do the one thing I know how to do, provide for you, which is going to work, making sure at least at the end of this, we will have food on the table, we will have, connection, we will have physical things that we need." And I looked at him and I thought, oh, I never looked at it like that. So that how you would say it? And he said, yes. And I said, I'm sorry for everything I thought about you, because I thought you didn't care, because I wouldn't be able to go to work. And he said, I went to work because it was the only thing I could do for you. So that awakening of seeing, even though it happened, and then I had, I don't know, amnesia for some time. And then I when I woke up to connect with that years later, because this happened like 18 months later, I had our baby, and now I was back to frustrated again. I connected that and I realized, oh, so just because he's not showing me that he's hurting, that's because he's not crying that he's hurting, does not mean he's not hurting. Because even during all that time, I cried. I used his shoulder. I cried a lot on his shoulders. He didn't cry all the time I cried. Yes, there were a few times he would shed tears, but he didn't do it like me. He would cry, but he was my support. He was the one I would lean on. And when I started doing all this research about men, I realized that actually most men do support. They stand there stoic and they give us their shoulders and we cry on them. But they have nobody to do that with. That is such a lonely life. And because I noticed that he was so lonely and nobody to talk to and support him, I decided to be his support. So when he messed up, I wouldn't be the critical person. I would be the support. I would say, yeah, I know you didn't do that intentionally. It happened. You need to forgive yourself for that. And do you know how that's transformative? How transformative that is for yourself and for your marriage and for humanity, actually. Because that compassion that I showed for my husband, he showed it to everyone he came across. And people got to know the better version of him because of that. And because I loved myself and showed myself love and compassion and understanding, I was a better wife. I was able to be a better wife for him. I was able to be a better partner for him because now I could be more compassionate. I had that room to say, oh, my heart can grow bigger. I can welcome all these things in my life and not feel like I'm being betrayed. Because guess what? I'm full of love. I'm full of joy. I'm full of compassion, right? So our relationship awakened to becoming a partnership of love, of support, and of care. And understanding that I am valuable enough, I am important enough, I am, deserving enough, I am valuable enough to deserve love. That kind of love, the love that's transformative, the love that makes my skin dance, the love that makes my heart dance, that kind of love. And everyone deserves that. Every single one of us. You deserve that. You deserve love that is transformative because you're valuable. And and then it just became a, a place where we would examine and come together and see how our relationship could grow. We now started talking about, so how can we do this better? And part of that was we always acknowledged when I was upset about something, I would tell him that, this happened. I don't like it. It upset me. And he would apologize. And I would take his apology and accept his apology with grace and compassion. When I say that, I mean, I did not then bring it up every time he messed up. No. I looked at it like my husband is a human being who's going to mess up sometimes. But the most important thing I needed to know was his intention was never ever to hurt me or harm me, frustrate me, make me angry or upset. When he did that, he thought he was doing the best. He thought he was doing something good for me. And that, my friends, is what happened. And the other thing we did was we decided, actually, I don't know if we decided or not. I don't remember talking about it anyway. But one day we were going to bed and I looked at him, or maybe he looked at me and said, "Thank you for choosing me today. Thank you for being my wife. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my partner. Thank you for choosing me." And I thought, oh, that's so beautiful. And I started saying, "Thank you for choosing me. I'm so grateful for you, for your friendship, for your partnership." And then, we would wake up in the morning and wake up and say, "Hi, did you sleep well? Thank you for being here next to me," and smile. And then we would go through our day because we went to work together. I would go and drop him off and then go off to work myself. Usually by the time I got to work, I would have a text message, "I miss you already." And so it just became a thing more that we were building on. And our home, our whole house became a non-judgmental zone because we started saying, well, people judge us when we go outside for the color of our skin, for our performance at work, for there's a lot of judgment out there for how you walk, for what you do, for what you say, for your accent, whatever. We are going to make our home a non-judgmental home. And that meant that we allowed room for people to grow and experiment and try things. And sometimes they would succeed and sometimes they would fail, but we would not judge them for it. So, for example, one day my husband went out with his friends and they went drinking to a bar, to a pub. They're called pubs in Ireland. So they went to a pub with their friends and they had one person who didn't drink who was going to be their driver. But their driver decided he wanted to go and meet with his mechanic because his car was not performing well and the mechanic was at some other party. So they all went to this party together. And they got there and there was some, fracas that happened and they there was there were these young men who were in their early 20s, white guys, who decided to go to this party. But they were not allowed in because they were very drunk and they were like loud and. And then they got violent. They went home and they collected their golf clubs and stuff and they came and they attacked people. And because most of the people there were drunk, they just ran because instinct. They just ran, and this other guy, the designated driver, was attacked and he got hurt badly that he almost lost his life. And afterwards, when we were talking, the other wives of the other friends were like, why did they do that? And I thought, okay, I know that when they went to that party, their intention was not to cause harm. They went there because they had a reason to go there. And things didn't work out. But it's not their fault. They didn't do this intentionally. And so I decided to just say, I know you are hurting. I'm sorry you had to experience this. And I'm really sorry. And I'm here for you. Don't be too hard on yourself. Because I know he was kicking himself anyway. So I just wanted him to know he had a friend. And people are like, how can you be so understanding? And I said, well, because I know if he had known this was going to happen, he wouldn't have gone there. And he didn't know. And life happens. Stuff happens sometimes. There's no need for us to blame and shame each other because things happened. And that allowing me to be myself, allowing her to be herself, allowing him to be himself, got us to a point where love, life became so beautiful, so magical, so conscientious, because everything we're doing now was intentional. And I discovered also that when you pause and, intentionally respond without knee-jerk reaction, you can be so kind. You can be so caring. But when a person comes and you just instinctively, answer without thinking, without being present, you find that for most people, they are not very understanding. They are not very caring. They are not very loving. Because what's in our instincts for most of us is stuff that come from our past that sometimes we haven't even dealt with, or we are trying to protect ourselves because we used to see someone we love going through what we are going through right now, and we don't want to be victims, so we defend before we are attacked. And that can be very harmful for a relationship. That can be so destroying for a couple. So, my advice to people is, if you are talking about something, especially things that trigger you, things that make it go, stop, breathe before you respond. And sometimes you can even say, I don't have anything nice to say right now. Can you give me time to think about this and then I'll come back to you? Or you might just say, can you give me time to deal with this inside and I'll get back to you? Or think about it, or whatever. Because when you do that, it helps you to center yourself. It also helps you to get back to who you are, because who you are is loving, is kind, is generous, is beautiful. So when you take a pause, it's so helpful, because that is what helped my relationship to flourish and to live our life together feeling grateful and joyful and fun and compassionate. And but the best part is our babies, our girls saying, I still remember, because unfortunately for me, my husband passed away in 2008. And part of the reason why I do this work, or the main reason why I do this work, is because I said to my husband, or to God, I said to God that the only way for me to understand and maybe to make peace with what happened is for me to take all those lessons that we learned together as a couple and help someone else who might be in the same situation as me, who wouldn't otherwise know that sorry, my screen went crazy. That that you can transform your relationship in a way that will build you, in a way that will support you, in a way that will transform you. Because that experience with my husband is what transformed me to be a coach that is compassionate and caring, to be in relationship coaching, even because I'm so passionate about helping people. Because if I could do it, if I could change from being this stubborn, headstrong, it's all about me person to being this compassionate, caring, connected partner, then anyone at all can do it too. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to go through what I went through, no matter how painful it was, because it has helped me to become the person I am today. And so thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me, to listening to my story, to listening to the lessons I learned, and to play with me during this time. I hope you benefited something, and I appreciate you so much. So I'm going back to the previous slide where you can get free stuff. If you're ready for a relationship, or you think you're ready, or you think, I really am tired, I'm done, take the quiz, and the quiz will help you to figure out what the next step, and that next step will be for your benefit and for your love, for joy, for growth, and for your um, you know, good gifts that you get from the world. Or if you want to just come and talk to me, I am always here to talk to you. So come and let's talk, and I would love to get to know you. And thank you so much. I appreciate you a lot for your time, for being here, for being you, and for taking the first step to a loving, fulfilling partnership with your spouse. Thank you. See you very soon. Bye.